So I want to pose a question to you guys, and this is completely hypothetical, and I do apologize for the titling of this video, and however I'm going to title this video. Sometimes I'll just pull something out of my ass. Anyway, so I'm going to ask you guys a completely hypothetical question. Just out of the blue. Just roll with it. Like, I want to hear your thoughts on this matter. And what are we talking about? Well, what if Warner Brothers, since it is such a trash fire right now, and with Legendary looking as though they are getting ready to leave, like they are getting ready to depart from Warner Brothers and probably take all their toys with them. What happens if another company that if they don't have any faith in, what if they sell that off? And I'm talking about DC Comics. Now, I did a video talking about, when I did the Godzilla video, talking about, like, is it a possibility that Warner Brothers, in their immense dumbassery right now, thanks to Zaslav, I think I've said enough about that, but, like, basically, we're going to be talking about, like, the possibility, because this is a possibility now, that what could happen is basically, could Warner Brothers, if they decide to, sell off DC Comics? It's been one of their tent poles for the longest time, and there is a strong possibility that they could easily just, give the rights of the company away and just film the movies, like do a joint thing and just keep the movie rights. Like, they could, in theory, do that. So, could that happen? It's a possibility. And I think it is, because they'll probably, like, Zaslav will probably look at the DC Comics and go, I don't need comics, I got movies. Fuck you. So that's kind of the big thing, and it's always been like a recurring nightmare for a lot of people that, like, DC Comics, especially under the new regime, are kind of fearing that. And people are already, like, I always love to hear people go, oh, it's because all their woke bullshit got them here. I'm like, no, bad marketing and bad company got them here. So, let's talk about this hypothetical situation where Warner Brothers Discovery decides we're not gonna have anything to do with DC Comics. What we're gonna do is just keep the movie rights and keep the movie distribution rights. So who could they sell off to, really? Or they could just get rid of the movies altogether. That's the other thing too, is that they could just completely, like, toss the movies aside if this whole 10-year DC movie ordeal doesn't work out. Like, I have a feeling that if Shazam, Flash, and Aquaman don't perform, or even, like, Black Adam already, like, I'm sure they're already, like, getting ready to hit the panic button with Black Adam, but, like, that's the thing, is, like, if all three of those movies do not do well, I could see this regime at Warner Brothers be like, no more DC films. So let's say for this hypothetical situation that Warner Brothers Discovery decides to pull the trigger and is like, look, we're gonna sell off DC Comics. Like, we're gonna straight up sell DC Comics off, and we're just gonna leave it as is. Like, we're just gonna straight up just fuck off. Like, we're just gonna fuck off with it. And I'm gonna talk about some companies that I think could, like, in theory, be the best matches for DC Comics in this crisis, essentially what is, to make a bit of a joke, a crisis level event for DC Comics, only in real life. So, here's our first pitch, and this is this would be the one studio that I think, like, one group that would, I think, would handle it with the utmost love, but they just don't have the money for it. I don't think they have the money for it. And this first one I'm going to pitch out there is none other than Hasbro. And you may be thinking, Hasbro? Really? Hasbro? You think Hasbro would be a good fit for DC Comics? It's a great fit for their figures. And I think a lot of people forget of how powerful Hasbro is as a toy company and a gaming company. They are constantly making new figures that's making them millions of dollars. And let's not forget, I'm going to give a perfect example of why I think Hasbro would be a great fit if they bought DC Comics from Warner Brothers. So the big thing is when Hasbro acquired the rights to Power Rangers from Nickelodeon and everyone, the big thing was, because there wasn't really much going on in terms of Power Rangers. The show right at the time was mediocre. No one was really giving a shit about it, and it was basically like, it was basically at this point of, sure, why not? Why do anything? That what everyone was panicking about, like what everything was everyone was legitimately panicking about, was the fact that what are they going to do with the comics? Because Boom Studios Power Rangers comics were completely just trouncing sales left and right. And that was a big thing, was everyone was more concerned about and I found that funny in a way, like everyone was more concerned about the comics than they were the TV show or anything else Power Rangers related. But Hasbro literally said when Hasbro bought the rights, one of the first things they did was basically say, yeah, we're not touching the comics. They're getting us money. Like we can make figures off these characters. That's what I really liked, is that Hasbro was so, and it's not just them. Like they were very user friendly and still comic friendly with IDW and the other companies that they sell their IPs out to. Why do you think IDW, and for the longest time until the end of this year, why did you think that like Hasbro worked with IDW and let them do whatever? Because they were like, yeah, you're going to make us new figures. You're going to make us new characters that we can make figures for. And now we can just do whatever and people will just eat that shit up. We can get the residuals for it. So Hasbro would, the problem is I don't think Hasbro has money, but I don't think they have DC comic level money. That's the problem. I think they would be a great fit if Warner Brothers was selling them off, but Hasbro I don't think would be the best shot. Also, they don't have their own movie company, I don't believe. So they'd have to sell the movie rights out, and they'd probably make a deal. They'd have to be made, like that would be part of the deal, is that you can only do this if you get a deal. We get to do the movie rights, and we'll distribute for you, Hasbro. That's how this deal works. So that's how it would probably go. So our next big one is Paramount. Paramount, a lot of people forget that Paramount did shepherd the MCU in the early years before Disney took over. That's another thing we have to look at, is that Paramount is also great with IP. They're great. They have decent creator relations. So I think that's another important thing. And I do think a lot of people forget how powerful like Paramount is. So, and yeah, I personally would love to see some animated DC shows on Nickelodeon. Just saying. And finally, and I know I use these three examples for... I fully acknowledge that, like, when I did the Godzilla videos, I used these three examples before, but these are, like, the three best examples out there right now for both Godzilla and DC Comics. So, yes, the last one I'm going to be using for an example is Universal Studios. I think if anyone has the best shot, if in this hypothetical situation that Warner Brothers sells off DC Comics, Universal Studios would be the first one to go at it. Because, one, here's the big one, they have connections with Warner Brothers. Obviously, they made the fucking... they use the IP from Harry Potter to make part of their lands and help them compete on a grander scale with Disney. And there's talk of them making a Lord of the Rings land with Warner Brothers in Epic Universe in the future. So there is that. So they already have, like, a connection right there between the two. Like, they already have, like, an automatic connection between the two sides. So that's something you have to look at in this scenario. Not only that, they have money. They have a redonkulous amount of money, and they are now learning how to spend it, and they will do anything in their here's the big one. Universal Studios will do anything in their power to flip off the mouse. They will do everything in their power just to spite that mouse. And you know which mouse I'm talking about. They will do everything in their power to piss off Disney, and they would love nothing more than, well, we don't have the movie rights to, like, Namor and Hulk, but you know what we do have? fucking Superman and Batman now. And could you imagine them taking the Marvel superhero island and converting it into like Gotham? Which, fun fact, it was actually supposed to be Gotham City before Warner Brothers at the time was like, nah, you can't do that. So it'd be kind of like in a roundabout kind of way, if this scenario actually did happen, it becoming a real thing, like it becoming a legit moment in time, like it became a legit thing. It become a legit, like, what is it, like actual Gotham City for Universal Studios. There you go. So there you go, guys. Like I said, this is all hypothetical. So you guys tell me in the comments below, who do you think would, like, if Warner Brothers sold off DC Comics, who would you want to take over the rights in this totally hypothetical situation? And I hope it stays hypothetical. Anyway, so yeah, just comment below, let me know. But other than that, hope you all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.